Now, as I mentioned, this is UFC on Fox 5 week. Huge card, my favorite main card of the year, and that means it is time for the oh-so-popular Rick's Picks. As we look ahead to UFC on Fox number 5, we are looking at 3 fights, the 3 main fights on the card. Is that correct, Mr. Rick?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's bring it here. You've got a lot of believing. You've got a lot of people, doubters. You got a lot of naysayers. Let's turn them into believers, as they say. Who are we starting with? Main event, or are we going backwards here?
Yeah, let's do main event. Let's work our way down.
Benson Henderson versus Nathan Diaz. Who are you picking and why?
Well, first let's get the numbers.
Yeah. Well,
Benson Henderson minus 155. Nate Diaz plus 135.
Okay.
I'm picking Nate Diaz. Before I explain why I'm picking Nate, I'll explain that I think Henderson has more paths to victory. I think that he can take Diaz down. He can chop him down with leg kicks. He can grind out a decision counter punching. There's a lot of paths to victory for him, but my most likely prediction is I see Nate Diaz overwhelming him with volume. I see him doing... I said this before the Frankie Edgar Benson Henderson fight, and I think that Frankie won that fight personally. I said that he was going to beat Ben with his volume, with his activity, because Benson kind of has this thing where he sits back a little bit. In the first round, he was destroying Frankie with those leg kicks. They were brutal. And then he just kind of fell away from it, and he was content to watch Frankie come bring it to him. And I thought Frankie won like at least 3 of the next 4 rounds, in my opinion, just based on his aggressive boxing, and Benson not going on the offensive so much. And that's, against Frankie Edgar, that's a mistake. But against Nate Diaz, that's an even bigger mistake. It's huge. You can't let a volume puncher like either of the Diaz brothers just come bring it to you, because they're going to never stop. Their cardio is ridiculous, and they're just going to keep punching you in the face until you either give up or they win a decision. So that's what I think is the most likely scenario, even though I admit that Benson Henderson has a few more ways to win this fight. I think that if he gets Diaz down, he's not going to get submitted from the top by Diaz. He's just too good at avoiding submissions, even though Diaz's jiu-jitsu is sick, amazing. So that's my pick for that fight, and I like him as an underdog. It's a good value because I think it's pretty even, but I'm going with Nate Diaz here.
All right. There you have it, the underdog pick to start off. Who says Mr. Rick only picks the favorites?
There we go.
All right, so co-main event, we have Alexander Gustafson versus Mauricio Shogun, who a huge fight at 205. Give us the goods.
Gustafson is minus 220. Shogun is plus 180. In this one,
wow.
I really like...
Gustafson's the favorite?
That surprises you?
Kinda.
I think that's about right, honestly. Okay. Maybe even a little favorable toward Shogun. I think that Gustafson is going to win this fight. Honestly, Shogun has looked good and bad in the UFC. It's kind of been, a roller coaster ride. He's either looked great or he's gotten beaten pretty badly. So in my opinion, I think that Gustafson's going to be able to outbox him. Even though Shogun has a more dangerous arsenal other than the boxing, I think that Gustafson's hands are too good. His takedown defense is too good. Shogun has underrated takedowns, but I think that Gustafson's takedown defense is just very, very high level for a guy that's not a wrestler. The way he was able to shrug off takedowns from Phil Davis and then started training with him to even improve that further, I think it's reminiscent of like a Martin Kampmann, a guy that you don't traditionally think of as a wrestler but has really, really good takedown defense. So I think he's going to be able to keep this fight on the feet, and he's going to be able to take Shogun apart technically. Even though Shogun, if it gets into like a sloppy brawl, Shogun could knock him out. There's no question about it. Gustafson, he showed a little bit of that in the Hamill fight. He took some punches in that one. Even though, he was able to end up winning that fight, he took some hits that if he takes those from Shogun, it's going to be a quick night. That said, I'm still sticking with Gustafson on this one. And I think that the line's pretty good. I think minus 220 is pretty accurate.
Finish?
Yep.
Wow.
I think that it's
TKO
just going to be...
Or
what?
KO? TKO or KO? Straight knockout?
That's too hard to call.
Say, yeah.
I'm going to say TKO just because...
Early or late?
It's not going to be late, but it'll be in the middle rounds. Gustafson's cardio is really good. I think that he's just going to outlast, and eventually those punches are going to add up.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the big one here. The big one, the one you've been waiting for, the one that when everyone first reacted to BJ Penn versus Rory MacDonald, New York Rick said, and we were all saying, crazy fight for BJ. Rory's going to smash him. Why is he calling Rory out? Rory looks like a stud, bigger than him, all this stuff. Why is he coming back to Rory MacDonald? There was one man, and one man only, well, outside of the Penn camp, who said, great fight for BJ. He is winning. 5 or so months later, is he still picking BJ Penn?
Nothing has changed.
Wow.
The pick is BJ Penn. Not only, let me give you the numbers on this. Rory is a favorite, minus 275. BJ is the underdog, plus 235. Similarly to the Henderson Diaz fight, I think that Rory has more ways to win this one. He can grind out a wrestling decision. He can try to hang with BJ on the feet. I don't think that would go well. But he has more offensive tactics that could win him this fight. Whereas BJ's game plan is probably going to be keep him from taking him down and outbox Rory, which I think is a monumental task, obviously. Rory's looked spectacular lately, but I think that just the way BJ looks right now, the shape he's in, and the motivation he has to, prove the haters wrong, is going to be all he needs to get in the best shape of his life, stop the takedowns from Rory, who I think is his takedowns have been a little overrated. He's pretty good, but I think that people are pretending that he's GSP with the takedowns, which I don't think he's quite there yet. That said, they're very good, but BJ Penn's takedown defense is otherworldly. We've seen him. There's that famous video where he's on one leg stuffing takedowns. That's otherworldly stuff, and BJ has that in him if he's motivated for this fight, which I think he is. So I think that he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, and then on the feet, it's not even going to be close. BJ is going to completely box Rory up.
Finish?
I don't know. Yeah, you know what? I'll go with another TKO on this one.
Holy moly, BJ Penn via TKO.
Oh, you know what? Actually, this might be a submission. What? This might be...
I thought you were going to say decision. You go submission.
No, wow. No. This might be a knockdown, rear naked choke kind of situation.
Wow.
The classic BJ Penn, the rear naked choke. But I'm definitely picking BJ. I wouldn't be surprised with a decision, but I'm going with a finish. I like a finish in this one.
I like it. And by the way, people asking, where are you getting these odds from?
These are on Best Fight Odds. You can look on that site to get all the different books that have different odds.
Great site. Really good site. They have like 7 or so books there, and then they give you the best underdog and favorite. And they don't have the odds yet for Matt Brown versus Mike Swick, which kind of flies under the radar here, but it's still a fun fight. Do you have do you want to put out a winner just straight up, or
I could pick that one, but I don't have odds in front of me, so I'm not gonna.
How about this? We won't count it towards your record.
Sure.
Who are you picking?
I like Swick in this one. Mm-hmm. I think he looked really good. Brown is one of those guys that's. I've said this before about a lot of guys on this show that are tough. They have a super well-rounded game, but they don't particularly excel in any one thing that would make them my pick to overwhelm the other fighter and win via that method. Whereas I think Swick's hands are going to be the key in this matchup. I think he's going to be able to, avoid takedowns and avoid any clinches that are particularly dangerous, and be able to win on his feet. So I'm going with Swick on this one. I haven't seen odds though, so I can't I can't tell you who to bet on or anything. But I like Swick in this fight.
There you have it. Rick's picks. Lock him in. He's going with the challenger, Nathan Diaz. He's going with the favorite, Alexander Gustafson. And he's going with the underdog, the legend, the man who thinks that a lot of us don't consider him a legend anymore. I do. The prodigy, BJ Penn. Great stuff there from Mr. New York Rick.